Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes & Co.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
I'm Andrew Doyle, and in a moment it'll be time for Headliners, where I'll be taking you through tomorrow's top news stories with two of the country's finest comedians. But first, here's the news with Polly Middlehurst.
Andrew, thank you. The top story tonight. The Prime Minister says he can't completely shield people from the rising cost of living. Boris Johnson made the comments as MPs debated the government's legislative agenda set out in the Queen's speech today. Labour's Sir Keir Starmer says it was a thin address from a government that's failing to help people who are struggling financially.
This government's failure to grow the economy over a decade, combined with its inertia in the face of spiralling bills, means that we are staring down the barrel of something we haven't seen in decades, a stagflation crisis.
This Queen's speech takes those issues head on. And above all, we're tackling the economic challenges with the best solution of all, and that's an ever-growing number of high-wage, high-skill jobs, Mr. Speaker. Jobs, jobs, jobs.
Well, it was the very first time Prince Charles had delivered the address. At the state opening of Parliament today, Her Majesty forced to pull out of the ceremony for the first time in nearly 60 years because of what Buckingham Palace termed episodic mobility issues. In other news today, Liz Truss says the UK won't be shying away from taking action on the Northern Ireland Protocol. The Foreign Secretary is criticising some proposals put forward by the European Union, saying they would take us backwards. She's arguing against introducing more checks, paperwork and disruption. The comments follow reports that Ms Truss could be set to discard large portions of the protocol after giving up negotiations. In news away from home, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russian forces are being pushed out of Kharkiv. It comes as Ukrainian officials announce that 8 villages have been recaptured to the north and the northeast of the city. Troops from the 92nd Separate Mechanised Brigade are responsible for the counter-offensive, and by pushing back Russian forces, they're now moving within striking distance of Moscow's all-important rear supply lines. President Zelensky thanked the troops for their amazing achievement.
The armed forces of our state have provided good news from the Kharkiv region to all of us. The occupiers are gradually being pushed out of Kharkiv. I am grateful to all our defenders who are holding the line and showing truly superhuman strength to drive out the army of invaders, once the second strongest army in the world.
Now, someone in the UK has scooped the biggest ever national lottery win. One lucky ticket holder has won the £184 million Euro Millions jackpot. Players are being urged to check their tickets to see if it could be you. It's not us, and that's why we're still at work. On TV, online, and on your radio via DAB+. This is GB News, and now it's time for headliners.
Thank you, Polly. Hello and welcome to Headliners, the paper preview show with just a touch of chaos. I'm Andrew Doyle, and joining me tonight are two comedians that I like to think of as the Ben and Jerry's of the comedy world. Not that they're going to lecture you on Black Lives Matter or anything like that. It's more that they're a guilty pleasure, they're very sweet, and they might leave a stain on your trousers. It's Leo Kearse and Josh Howie. How are you both?
Good.
Yeah, you're looking very dapper, Leo.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just went to TK Maxx.
Is that what you've
People
gone?
on Twitter were saying I'm always wearing the same clothes.
So now you thought, I'll show them.
I've doubled the amount of clothes I've got. I've got 2 outfits now.
No, it looks good. It looks very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not so much, but...
Well, I know, but you know what? I just found out I've won 184 million on the Euro jackpot.
So you don't have to even bother dressing up?
Like, rich people, they deliberately dress down.
No, they look bad, don't they? Because they don't care.
Yeah,
They've got that arrogance of wealth.
That's what I'm trying to project.
And you absolutely are being successful there. Well, let's have a quick look at tomorrow's front pages before we begin. We're going to start with the Daily Mail, which leads with death knell for work from home. This is the proposed law to make work from home easier, being axed from the Queen's speech. And an image there as well of Rebecca Vardy and Colleen Rooney in that ongoing Wagatha Christie saga. We're going to get to that in a moment. Wednesday's Telegraph runs with trust stands firm in face of EU trade war threat. The Foreign Secretary accusing Brussels of making the impasse worse as she prepares to make unilateral changes to the Northern Irish Protocol. And an image that is gracing many of Wednesday's front covers. This is the imperial state crown in place of the Queen as Prince Charles opens Parliament in the absence of his mother. Plus, they've gone with PM criticised for failure to tackle cost of living. Wednesday's Guardian leads with that same story about the Tories and the cost of living crisis, which we'll be covering in a moment, and a similar image there of Charles at the state opening of Parliament. Wednesday's Mirror next. Wagro, they've gone full pun. The Vardy and Rooney libel battle wages on. Wednesday's Times has neighbours get the right to vote on housing plans. This is another story about some of the details that are coming out about the Queen's speech, delivered, of course, by Charles. And there's a story there in the corner about Elon Musk vowing to allow Trump to return to Twitter. It'll be worth that just to see the meltdown from Hollywood celebrities. And finally, we have Wednesday's Star, squeaky bum time. Marcelo, who is apparently a footballer, is kicked out of the French team due to his flatulence. And those are your front covers. Our top story, and Boris Johnson may not be the saviour that everyone thought that he might be. Josh, what are the details here?
Did anybody think he was the saviour?
I don't know, apparently. Someone thought he was the saviour.
Well, this is in the Telegraph, so they probably are saying that he's the saviour.
They seem very much as a Christ-like figure.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
They have pictures of him everywhere. And all the articles that were turned out to be wrong or lies. Anyway, he basically says, I can't shield everyone from the cost of living crisis. My question would be, could he shield anyone from the cost of living crisis? This is in the Queen's speech today, where a bunch of government proposals have been launched for the next year, but they're all basically long-term. And the problem is that there are families and people suffering now, and he hasn't really said what he's going to do about any of that. Some of the long-term stuff looks pretty good, you know, structural reforms about energy supply and education, planning rules. Like, these are all, like, good, positive steps.
Yeah.
But there's just nothing concrete about what we're going to do right now, because there are, like I said, it's not, and I'm not talking about me here, but there are genuinely proper, actual needy people who actually need help right now, and there's just nothing there.
Well, he's saying that this it's the global impact of, not just the war in Russia and Ukraine, but also the pandemic, of course. It means that this is an inevitability. But isn't that kind of like passing the buck a bit, Leo?
Well, I mean, it's certainly an excuse because it is something that is affecting all countries. Although, I mean, of course, some countries are probably being affected less. I should imagine Sweden, where they didn't have this savage lockdown and so much quantitative easing. I mean, it's really quantitative easing. Since 2007, 2008, the government's just been printing money hand over fist. So, of course, that feeds into inflation. The money's got to go somewhere, so it goes into fixed assets.
Yeah.
And lockdown, everybody wanted lockdown when it was... everybody wanted a harder lockdown. Labour wanted a harder lockdown. We'd be in an even worse position with Labour. And the one thing that Boris and the Tories really have sort of let us down on and not really given a conservative stance is green policy. So they've really been pushing this green agenda, which even in the good times was adding, 20, 25, 30% tariff on top of everybody's energy bills. And now that we're completely dependent on Russia and we're in this terrible state where we can't get oil and gas and that it's all shut up in the open.
But we're not dependent on Russia at all.
It pushes up the price in the market. Yeah. The situation has pushed up the price in the market. So,
but isn't that a good argument for us to be self-sufficient and to implement?
Yeah, absolutely.
Policy?
We should have been. We should have opened the North Sea oil fields. Cambo was shuttered. That's an oil field in the North Sea. If that had gone ahead, we'd be up to our eyeballs in oil.
And what do you think about some of these? What do you think about some of these policies that up to your eyeballs in oil? Well, that's a very Scottish thing to say, isn't it? But the policies, they're quite good, aren't they? Some of the things that Johnson's
the long-term plans around nuclear and around energy independence and things like that are good. I mean, I've got to be honest, it's something that's probably coming from a personal place with him because he's got 8 kids, so the cost of living crisis is going to be hitting him.
Is it
more than
8 that we know of?
8 that we know of.
Yeah, 8 that he knows of.
Yeah.
Can be all sorts. All right, well, listen, let's move on to the next. So this is Wednesday's Sun now, and it's a reminder that the tide of time is relentless. All things must change, Leo. I'm feeling very metaphysical tonight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's quite sad times for the nation, even for somebody like me who's not a royalist. So the Queen says she's got episodic mobility problems.
But she's fine. I mean, they're saying she's fine. It's just that this image of the crown in place of the Queen, which I think we can have a look at now, it just reminds us, doesn't it? She's an old woman. The monarch is mortal.
Is that her?
She's not under.
That's Prince Charles.
Oh, that's Prince Charles. Okay.
She's not under that crown. Okay. And that's Prince Charles.
I thought she was looking pretty good.
Well, and apparently Prince Charles looked emotional as he gazed at the crown and rubbed his hands together saying, "My precious."
He's so close.
Precious.
You can just see how close he is. He's 73 years old. He's been waiting so long. It's like, just want to move there.
Just wait a bit, Mr. Charles. You'll get your crown. And
you're projecting there onto Charles. I'm sure he's very fond of the Queen as much as we all are.
Mum.
Yeah, it's his mum.
But they are upper class, so upper class families don't always get on.
No, they don't. But they don't have emotion either, so it's fine. They're dead inside. But I mean, what do you think? I mean, do you think this image? I mean, it's been so striking. A lot of people have been talking about it online. this image of, it's sort of striking people. But it's like a glimpse of the
future.
It's
the first time she hasn't been there, I think, since 1964 or so. 63. So it is a big deal, her not being there. And this is the moment. But they had to pass special laws so that Prince Charles could do the speech instead.
Yes, this is unprecedented, isn't it?
Yeah, and it is moving, obviously, towards what is inevitable.
Yeah.
And that Prince William was also there, I guess, to kind of, as a sort of PR exercise, like, hey, don't worry, we're not going to have him for too long. We're going to have this guy.
But it is quite powerful, though, isn't it? Because, I mean, irrespective of where you stand on the notion of a monarchy, the vast majority of people really like the Queen, don't they? She's a really likeable figure, and more people are nervous about the prospect of Charles.
She's given her life to her country. I mean, all right, she gets to live in a palace and go around in a big gold car and stuff like that, which is nice. But she's put the hours in. I respect her for that. She's not like Prince Andrew, who just jets off to Jurassic Park Island or wherever he went, cavorting with 14-year-olds. So
careful what you're saying there.
17-year-olds.
Yeah, Jurassic Park is not real.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, absolutely. Well, look, let's move on now to Wednesday's Mail. I have to be honest, I have no idea what this story is about or who any of these people are. So, Josh, you're going to have to help me here.
Well, that's it. So we are talking about Rebecca Vardy and Colleen, really?
Colleen, I believe.
I'm worse than you, but this took me like an hour to read this.
Yes.
This is like half of the newspaper.
I mean, I had never heard of Rebecca Vardy before this story broke, so I have absolutely no idea.
You haven't heard her on Free Speech Nation?
Well, no, she won't return my calls. But the thing is, I have no idea about football, and I have no interest.
Well, this is a free speech issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is a free speech, and it's actually better than football. It's just they happen to be married to footballers, but really it's about fame, and it's a great story because it's about. The reason why it's called Wagatha Christie is because Colin Rooney sort of did the sting operation using a social media account to kind of whittle down the suspects who was leaking stories about her life to the press.
So she is the Miss Marple of Instagram.
That's the way it turns out. And she sort of did this over a period of time, and then finally it came down to Rebecca Vardy, and that's when she kind of released this information, like, it has to be her. And it was really it was quite a clever thing.
That's smart.
Yeah, it was a smart thing.
They do it in espionage as a blue dye.
Is that what it is?
That's yeah. So you feed certain information, false information to people, see what gets through, and then you know who you're leaking.
I actually think Poirot has done that kind of thing. I've seen it. I've seen it before. So this is an actual technique.
So they're watching a lot of ITV3.
Yeah,
essentially, and from that, she then worked out this plan, and it did work. But I love this article because it just goes on, and it's got these like ridiculous facts, like she stared her down, and they passed within inches of each other.
Oh, it's going to be a film, isn't it? At some point, this is going to be on our big screens.
Starring some really rubbish actors.
Leo, what do you think about this? I mean, what's interesting is one of the tactics to sort of discredit Rebecca Vardy was to say that she's a leaky person. Yeah. That she has this... That sounds dodgy. But you're not... That she's porous, right? And I think...
She breastfeeds.
That's not what I mean.
Oh, OK.
And to prove this, they pointed out that she said some pretty nasty things about Peter Andre.
They brought out as evidence. So she said, no, I respect people's privacy. She was asked that, do you respect people's privacy? And she said, yes, of course. And then they brought out an A3 printout of her talking about Peter Andre, and not in a nice way. So apparently she slept with Peter Andre, and he's hung like a chipolata, to quote her.
I kill to be hung like a chipolata.
Yeah.
I don't even know what a chipolata is. Is that a small
It's a small sausage, yeah.
Small
So it's not good. You want to be hung like at least a Savoy.
Any sausages for me is not kosher.
Yeah.
But I feel bad for Peter Andre, though, because he's now being brought up... All of this has been brought up again.
Yeah.
You know, this happened a few years ago, and now we're all reminded.
And he was already married to Jordan. Right. So he's got that whole problem. Yeah. And now there's this as well. I mean,
he might have just been having a bad penis day. Like, we do get them sometimes, where it just doesn't, muster the strength.
Mustard the chipotle.
Yeah. I think we've got... This theme is making me a little bit nervous, so let's move on to the Wednesday's Independent next. And President Macron has suggested a kind of union between Britain and other European countries. Don't know about you, but I think this sounds like a great idea. Why haven't we tried something like this before, Leo?
Yeah. Another union for us to leave in a few years' time. Emmanuel Macron, French leader, French president, has suggested that we have, in the wake of the Ukraine crisis, which obviously has affected Europe's security and Europe's energy as well. Like Europe, Germany gets pretty much all its oil and gas from Russia, and it's still still giving Russia $1 billion a day. We really need to be thinking about this and how we're going to work cohesively as a union. So this makes sense. I mean, we've even though we've left the European Union, which governs laws and trade and things like that, for stuff like energy and security, like we're in NATO, which is that's our sort of defence system. So why not have some sort of pan-European defence?
We could sort of like make some of the laws the same across those places.
Have the same currency.
Why not the same passport? Same passport colour.
Well,
why not?
How about if Russia tries to invade? We've got and also there's things like, it would make sense because one of the issues with sending armaments to Ukraine is we send them artillery, but then we're all using different ammo. We're all using different. The tanks are all using different. Some of them run on diesel, some of them run on unleaded, some of them are hybrid.
Yes.
That's not a thing, but we're using. If we're all using the same standardised ammo, then it would be easier to
kill people.
To kill people.
Yes.
There's also this suggestion in this article that this is Macron saying a new parallel European project, which isn't the EU, but it's a cooperative project which Ukraine could potentially be part of, because he's sort of saying, well, it's going to take years, perhaps decades, for Ukraine to join the EU. But this is a can of worms, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because it looked like there's a lot of political change all of a sudden with Finland and Sweden joining NATO, which is it's almost gone through now, and Ukraine said, we want to join the EU, and the EU's like, yes, of course. But now that the dust is settled, Macron and other people are saying, well, actually, it's going to take many years for you to join. But we do need to provide, security guarantees to Ukraine, any sort of settlement. I mean, we're reaching the point with the invasion that it's grinding to a halt for Russia, so they need to negotiate their way out of it. So anything in that is going to require security.
I love how you speak so confidently about this stuff.
It's because I read The Economist.
Yeah, I read The Economist too, but I wouldn't state it as fact. No, right, this is what's going to happen. No, they're definitely going to do this.
This isn't necessarily definitely what's going to happen. Okay. Like, Putin could decide to nuke Kyiv.
Just say, let's keep our options open.
Anything could happen.
But I like Leo's definitive style. He knows what's going on.
But in the 90s, when the Soviet Union fell, so Ukraine had nuclear weapons. I mean, they're all pointing at the West, so they weren't much use against Russia. But Russia said, OK, we guarantee that we won't invade. So Ukraine got rid of its nukes. Yeah. And, now we're seeing that maybe, that wasn't the best idea. And so the Ukraine needs some sort of security guarantee. It won't be able to join NATO as any part of negotiated settlement, but it will need some sort of guarantee.
And what about Britain's role with this? Because, ever since Brexit, Macron has been notoriously hostile to Britain, and the idea of sort of creating this pan-European alliance where everyone's cooperating again, he's been quite truculent, hasn't he, about this?
He has been, with the fishing rights as well. But, I mean, it makes sense. We have to, like Leo says, we have to cooperate, and some kind of informal, formal infrastructure could be a good thing. And if it also allows us to go through the borders with no hassle, then great.
That's what it was always about with you, wasn't it?
That's all I care about. That's me at the protest. It's like, don't make me wait longer at the borders. I've got 5 kids in the car with me. I'm just trying to get on holiday to my cheap holiday in France.
Right. Well, Wednesday's Guardian now, they've been covering the government's proposal for a new conversion bill. What is it, and will it affect the new camper van I'm getting built for my summer holidays, Josh?
Well, I don't know if it depends where you're going to go with it, to the EU or non-EU or whatever. This is The Guardian. So it is going through, or it's gone through, where the bill, it's quite an interesting thing where it's basically, it's gone through anybody under 18, like this bill covers, like this conversion ban practice.
And this is to do with sexuality.
Sexuality,
right?
yeah.
So in other words, you're not going to... it will be illegal...
for anybody under 18, but it turns out there's not... I wouldn't necessarily call it a loophole. Some people are saying it's a loophole, but essentially anybody over 18 who consents to some kind of conversion therapy or whatever, i.e., I'm assuming from what I saw in films where there'd be like someone who's a Christian who thinks that they don't want to be gay anymore, or whatever, that they can then do that as long as it doesn't involve like physical harm or anything.
So isn't that...
Milo Yiannopoulos did that, didn't he?
Yes, Milo Yiannopoulos did that, absolutely. And isn't that, in a sense, because, I mean, when we think of sexual conversion therapy, we think back to, like, the 70s and 80s when people had electrodes tied to them, really cruel. What it was basically torture, let's face it. And that's already now illegal. So that's what's misleading here. When we're talking about conversion therapy regarding sexuality and sexual orientation, we're talking about therapy, as in discussions with these counsellors, and I think it's bunkum. But shouldn't adults have the choice if they want to put themselves through this stuff? I mean, the data's in on this, by the way. You can't convert your sexuality. You can hide it, you can suppress it, but it's not going to change who you essentially are. So, but shouldn't adults be able to do that if they want?
Yeah, I think they should. At least they should have that option. But then there's, like anything here, it's that there's murky areas. Are they being coerced? Like, they might say that they're not, but if it's a cult, if it's Christianity.
But a cult, is it? It's quite a big cult.
Quite a big cult. They've done pretty well.
Pretty well.
Those Christian.
Does it happen in Judaism?
No, but there's an interesting thing in Judaism where lesbians technically don't exist.
Right. So, is that right?
Yeah, so homosexuality is like seen as like immoral, whatever. Obviously, I don't believe that, and that's an Orthodox thing. But they just don't mention lesbians in the Bible because it's seen as all like exchanging of fluids essentially. So you can be totally lesbian, it's totally fine.
Right.
Lesbians come and hang out with the Jews. It's all good.
That's your pitch.
That's the pitch. Come on.
I think I've seen that film. The conversion therapy bill was also going to stop any discussion. So if a child presented with ideas of sort of gender dysmorphia, it would stop any discussion with a doctor or a professional that didn't lead to gender conversion.
That's the confusion, isn't it? Because there are two types of what they're calling conversion therapy here. There's conversion therapy relating to sexual orientation, and then what they're calling conversion therapy relating to trans kids or kids with gender dysphoria. But that's not conversion therapy. No. That's doctors talking to kids who are confused about their gender identity. And they're lumping all of this together in quite a dangerous way.
Yeah, the trans activists are
Yes.
lumping it together. Yeah, because the difference is conversion therapy, for the latter sense, would be like going and saying, "Oh, I think I might be a boy or a girl," and the therapist saying, "That's cool, but why don't we talk about, your depression or maybe history of sexual assault or things that have happened that might be the reason, the cause
Exactly.
for that."
But they're suggesting, the activists are certainly suggesting that that's the same as effectively
If you don't
telling a
accept
gay
someone
kid
straight
you're
away.
not gay. And it's not the same, and that's what's causing a lot of confusion. Anyway, part one is over now. There are adverts now. Watch them, absorb their message, buy their wares. And after the break, we're going to be talking about microaggressions, an anti-woke investment fund, and whether crisps are good for you. See you in 2 minutes.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners, and with me, Andrew Doyle, I've got Leo Kearse and Josh Howie. We're going to move straight on now. This is to Wednesday's Times. And a headline that sounds counterintuitive, but is it, Leo? Microaggressions are as bad as overt hatred?
Well, yeah, this is relating to courses being taught to NHS staff at great expense to the taxpayer, obviously, when I think the NHS might have other things it could be spending its money on. But courses on the NHS Leadership Academy's website include a lecture by a campaigner who said that being prejudiced is unavoidable for people born in Britain because it's a country that legalised oppression, so we're all automatically prejudiced. And they're being told, the same person also said in a TED talk that microaggressions can be worse than overt acts of hate.
So this is Nova Reid, who's this campaigner. Can you explain what a microaggression is for people who don't know what it is?
Basically, a microaggression is a sort of racially insensitive question, such as, where are you from? Which is the most horrifying and vicious racial assault that this person can imagine. No, a microaggression is basically an aggression that's so tiny, you shouldn't really care about it.
Well, it's not just racial. I've heard people say that to say God bless you when someone sneezes is a microaggression against atheists.
Christianity,
exactly. Because you might be an atheist and that might offend your belief system.
No, honestly, if you're worried about microaggressions, go to Glasgow, see a full-size aggression. They're much worse.
Yeah, Josh, what do you make of this? Do you think, I mean, isn't it perfectly possible, though, to inadvertently cause offence? You don't mean to, but you've said something that's a bit insensitive. That happens.
Absolutely. And the problem is that the two are getting mixed up because... Right. But it's not a bad thing to find out where these inadvertent things might be. Like I did one of these like racist courses or whatever. My synagogue organised it, and as you do. And one of the things was because there are black Jews, and that people would go up in synagogue, like at the meeting, go, "Oh hi, where are you from?" And for a person who's black and Jewish, it might be construed as like saying, like, you don't necessarily belong, or why don't you, so I could see that, and I would see, because I would see someone, I'd be, I want to find out where they're from, are they from Israel, are they, and so I would do that, and I didn't realise that it is a form of othering. I don't want to get too,
But then the problem with that is you might ask that of anyone, and therefore, but with the rise of the sort of culture of microaggressions, people are now more likely to interpret innocuous statements as having a malevolent...
They might be, but even if they weren't taking it like that, because I think that, even if that hadn't happened, I do think that would be a way of saying, do you belong? If you're specifically going up to the one black person who's in your synagogue and saying, oh, where are you from? And not doing it to, and you might be doing it from a good place. Like, you want to say, what's your story? I'm interested to find out how this has happened. Did you convert or whatever? That can be quite tiresome if everybody's going up to the same person.
Well, yeah, I get asked where are you from all the time in London, and it's boring, but it's not.
Yeah, but the idea that
it always goes the same way.
People are interested.
People are interested, but then they don't. They're like, so I'm from Scotland. And they're like, yeah, but where in Scotland? I'm from near Dumfries, and they're like, I haven't been there. I've been to Glasgow. And I don't care. Why don't people should just ask more interesting questions? I'd rather have some racially prejudiced abuse thrown at me, because at least that would be vaguely interesting.
Wait a minute, I'm very confused. I always thought you were from Ireland. So this is news to me. I'm learning.
I think it's all of this.
It's microaggression. Yeah.
I think the problem with this article, though, is the suggestion that a microaggression, which we can acknowledge is bad, is the same as overt hatred.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Because we could detect I could say that your shirt with lobsters on it is a microaggression because I'm allergic to shellfish.
Scorpions.
Is it scorpions?
Yep.
Well, I knew it was some kind of crustacean. Are they a crustacean? I don't know. But you see the minefield that we've just exposed. Yeah. But the point is, why is that as bad as an overt... It can't be as bad as an overt declaration of racism or homophobia or whatever. It just can't.
Well, I think that they want to push... Well, the people who are pushing for this kind of super woke... I think, first of all, this person charging £1,074, including VAT, which is a bargain. It's because it's, they want to make more and more... as people are being less and less racist, they're finding where these actual, these supposed racisms are.
Yeah.
Whereas that's actually people just maybe not knowing any better, and then just teach them that, maybe think about that twice before going and asking this. It's not coming from a place of hate.
I think you just say, try not to be mean.
Try not to be mean.
Try not to be a wally. And that's free. That's advice I gave to everybody in the NHS for free. You don't need to charge £1,074 per person to hear that.
Yeah.
OK, so we're going to move on now to the Wednesday's Telegraph. And big money are banking on the idiom go woke, go broke being a useful way to navigate the complex worldwide economic investment system. Josh, what do you think?
This is microaggressions in the field of funding BlackRock. Is that a microaggression? Whatever.
Well be.
Vanguard.
Offensive to geologists.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
This is an author who wrote Woke Inc., Vivek Ramaswamy.
Vivek Ramaswamy, who I interviewed actually on my show.
Yeah, that was an amazing interview. Anyway, and
that's a microaggression to me now.
There we go.
That was watch my show.
Yep, I'm sorry.
Even when you're on it, you're not paying attention.
That's right. I've got to remember what's coming up in the next section. I've got to
Unbelievable. Get on with the story.
Okay. He's raised $20 million to invest in funds that just focus on making as much money as possible, which you think is the point of investing is meant to be. The thing is, $20 million in that world is nothing.
Yeah, BlackRock is $10 trillion.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting idea to point to, but 20 million sounds like a lot. Of course, that's a lot of money to us. But in that world, it's like. It's like Peter Andre's Chipotle.
But he is promoting this idea of what he calls excellence capitalism. And what Ramaswamy is saying is corporations have become woke to the extent that they're more interested in preaching their sort of identitarian politics than they are in making money, which is the purpose of a capitalist venture.
Well, for a lot of... Because, I mean, something like BlackRock will have a lot of investments from hedge fund, retirement funds, pensions and things like that. So they have, requirements that the money can only go to ethical funds. So it's a way of, getting the maximum amount of money flowing into your fund. But I think this guy's spotted the fact that, companies that focus on making money first and being good people second are probably going to make more money because that's what they're focused on. And also, there's an interesting thing that these companies such as BlackRock, they're not squeaky clean. So BlackRock, has this woke image, but it funnels millions of dollars.
I mean, all of them are. Ben & Jerry's isn't squeaky clean.
To the Chinese government and to Chinese companies. That, and obviously in China you've got slave labour, you've got all kinds of... I mean, for a start, it's a horrific, authoritarian regime. But, China's doing horrific things and BlackRock's making money from them.
Right.
Yeah, but just to say one thing, yes, to what you were saying about their first thing is to make money, the second thing is to do good. I would argue that some of these companies' examples that you were saying, I don't see any agenda there to being good at all. It's just like they want to make money. Now, that is capitalism, arguably, but there is an argument that there is a social... I think contract as well.
Well, I think his argument is that when Nike sort of do the sort of BLM thing, they've made a calculation.
Of course, it's a PR exercise.
It's not about the cause.
No, absolutely. But I would just say the people that he was talking about, he's like, if it's going to be an oil company, let's make it the best oil company.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't. That's not where I'd want my money to go to.
But Ben & Jerry's refused to sell ice cream in the West Bank.
Yeah, I know. By the way, I should point out I have no money, so it's really moot to me anyway.
You were boasting at the start about how rich you were.
That was
just for comedic.
I didn't really win the millions.
Next up, from Wednesday's Guardian, this is a story about an app, and I've no idea. I've never heard. It's Grindr, is it? Grindr. I've never heard of this. I have absolutely no idea what this does. I don't know. I'm at a loss.
Yeah,
it's a real microaggression.
It's like a sort of a Tinder for gay people.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It's a dating app for gay people, and it's floating. It's not literally floating. That would be strange because it's a mobile phone app. But yeah, basically they're going to launch. They're going to have a. I mean, they used to be done through an IPO, so you'd have an initial public offering, and your shares would be sold in the stock market. Now they do it through a SPAC, and that's not a kid I went to school with. That is a Singapore-based special purpose acquisition company, which basically raises all this money and is a blank shell. It sounds quite...
Mate, just get on with the gay sex, all right? Stop with all this financial stuff.
I don't think
they just talk about financial stuff. There is literally no mention of
There's loads of good gay stuff there.
I'm going to go to you for the gay stuff, Josh, because clearly this is on your mind.
This is really interesting stuff. I didn't know, looking at the statistics, 80% of the profiles on Grindr are 35 years. Old or younger.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. I
think gay men cap their age at 35.
Well, do you think they stay there only 30?
It's like Barbara Streisand. You never get older.
You can't be 40 and on the gay scene because you're basically an octogenarian at that point. You just double. It's like dog years.
So what do they do then?
Oh, they just take up sort of crosswords.
You've got to moisturise.
Okay, and also this is another interesting thing. It's going up. It expects growth of 35 to 40% this year. Money, where does all these extra gay people come from? That's great. What do they do? They're spending more money?
Do you know what? I blame Stephen Fry because he was the one who first mentioned the app on the BBC. I think it was on Top Gear. And then it exploded because this app, of course, you could find the nearest gay man to the nearest foot. Your phone could sort of locate it like some sort of
Let me see if it works.
Let's see if it works. Oh. Anyway, before Josh gets too excited, we're going to move on. That's part 2 over and done with. Part 3 is where these two will be removing their leashes and speaking truth to power on a host of stories. Anyway, coming up, we've got the world's worst in-flight entertainment. Humanzees, a weird new hybrid monster. You won't want to miss that. And why I have yeeted my crypto wallet into the sea. We'll see you there.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's 2 questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GBNews for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GBNews.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Andrew Doyle, and Leo Kearse and Josh Howie. So let's just crack straight on, shall we? This is some revolutionary investigative journalism here from Wednesday's Times. Josh?
Yeah, so it turns out that there's a lot of holiday homes in Cornwall.
Amazing stuff.
Yes, this is, but it's quite interesting because we're always seeing things about. You know, you're seeing like houses being graffitied and you're seeing the locals being priced out of being able to buy any properties there. But what they're talking about, and it's actually quite an interesting idea, is doing some sort of scheme where anyone with a second home has to register it and pay £200. And now they haven't said what that money is going to be used for, but I'm imagining they can invest it in local housing. So that's not a bad idea.
OK, but this is about what they're calling over-tourism. Over-tourism.
Well, it's the same in like Amsterdam, where they don't want tourists anymore because they see it as ruining their city. It's a ridiculous idea of over 5 million holiday makers go every year. I've never noticed it. I've been a couple of times, and it's not like that full. Just people, it's got enough. It's not like people are camping in the homeless holiday makers on the street begging for change. Like, it's as full as it gets.
I think you're just finding it less full than Camden.
Yeah.
I think, yes, exactly. I mean, they're worried that there are too many tourists in Cornwall, it's going to sink or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, have you been to Cornwall, Leo?
I have been to Cornwall. I've done shows down there.
Yeah, me too.
It's great fun. Yeah.
It's all right, isn't it? Because they're not used to entertainment. They've just got like a barrel and farmyard animals and things. So they love it.
And GBNews now.
And now GBNews.
Yeah. But fun enough, in Scotland, they had a thing called Settler Watch, which was set up to try and stop English people coming up, and like my parents moved up to Scotland. The thing is, the guy ran my local shop. He had this deli counter selling olives and all the rest of it, and obviously it was all the English people buying that stuff because it hadn't been fried. And he appeared on TV, saying that he was in Settler Watch and he wanted all the English people to go home Sunday, and all the English people stopped buying olives at his shop. He went bust.
That sounds a bit racist to me.
Oh, it's very racist, but it was against white people, so it was okay.
And I mean, you've got the same thing in Wales. You've got that group maybe on Glyndŵr who didn't like English people buying houses over there. And there are Cornish separatists, aren't there, to be fair? I wonder if that's connected to this.
And
I would have thought tourism...
SNP.
And there's the SNP. Yeah. But I would have thought tourists would have been welcome. Isn't that good for the local economy?
Well, it is, but like I say, when locals can't afford accommodation, there's a real problem there. But this also absolutely reeks of this whole like NIMBYism, because they're saying, now if we do this whole thing and everyone registers, then we can make sure that the hot tubs are properly treated so no one gets Legionnaire's disease. And they're also saying they want to crack down on complimentary snacks left out because people have allergic reactions. So as things do, they've obviously taken it too far and gotten totally ridiculous.
Wednesday's Times now. We have a fascinatingly insightful article on crisps, Josh. Is this your area of expertise?
Well, putting on weight is, and that's what this is really all about. It's basically a bag of crisps a day, although they do say later on a large grab bag. So one of the big crab basically will make you a stone heavier over a year.
So if you eat a big bag of crisps a day, by the end of the year, you're
not that big. A grab bag is just 50 grams.
the middle, Okay. So bigger than the normal one, though.
So is it the case that just everyday snacking, we don't realise what we're doing, and actually we're really...
We think there's less calories than there really are, is the gist of it. and he's got some good abs there.
Yeah, but he's got a six-pack, so...
Yeah, has he got a six-pack?
No, I'm actually kind of fat.
Oh, you got... Okay, sorry, microaggression.
Let's not body shame each other now. Let's just get on with the story.
But I've really put on some weight, and it's really scary. Thank you. It's really horrible. This is my sort of this was my baggy shirt about a year ago. Now it's properly stretched across.
So it's that simple, is it? Just you cut out one... I mean, there's a problem, though, isn't there? We all snack, especially when we're in the office, and we think it doesn't matter because it's like a little bag of crisps. It doesn't really matter, does it? But it all adds up. It's this cumulative effect, and suddenly you end up the size of a house.
Yeah, there's basically... So Darius Davies, you know Darius, he says there's a just one rule you need. If you want to maintain your weight and have a six-pack and all the rest of it, just is it delicious? If it's delicious, you can't eat it.
So have no fun.
So no crisps, no Snickers, nothing like that.
But there is another point. Yeah, what they say is our food environment is very important. So if you have snacks around, then you're going to eat them. And that's the problem is I do all the shopping and whatever in our house, and I deliberately are cutting back on the stuff. But 5 kids, my wife is she's a sucker for them. She'll go and buy loads of sweets down the corner shop and then fill in the cupboard. And then I'm going to get home at 1 a.m. It's all going to be there for me.
So it's your wife's fault?
It is my wife's fault. And then she fat-shames me and sort of she took a photo of me during lockdown, just me sitting there, and said, by the way, this is what you look like now.
Yeah, no, but she's a feeder, and you'll never leave now.
Oh, that's what
it's all about. She's making you basically undateable.
We really need to bring back fat shaming, though. It's the most effective way of getting somebody to lose weight.
No, she absolutely freaked me out. She showed me this photo, and I was like, OK, I'm going to sort it out.
Yeah,
stop buying sweet. Yeah, one day.
Even though that's cruel psychological bullying.
Yeah,
it is. But maybe it's necessary.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Black Lives Matter, remember them? Well, what have they been up to, Leo?
Well, so they raised $90 million from people sent in donations, expecting the money to go to community projects and things like that. But instead, the already wealthy Patrice Cullors, who writes books telling white people how terrible they are, bought a fleet of properties, or a squadron, whatever the word for a lot of properties is, including a $6 million luxury mansion she bought for cash, with no mortgage. Just cash.
She bought it with cash?
Cash from Black Lives Matter.
It's like in a big suitcase.
Yeah, it's got 6 bedrooms. It's got a swimming pool, parking for 20 cars.
Now, we should say, though, she didn't buy this house for herself to live in, right?
She didn't buy it for herself to live in, but she's living in it. So...
I think, in all fairness, the claim is that she believed that Black Lives Matter ought to have an asset, and to sink some of their money into property would be a good way. And they could use this for various sort of community projects. And as an artist resident. Look, I'm just...
but they only said that after they got busted. After she'd had a birthday party for her son, after she'd been living there for a week, whatever. Suddenly a magazine sort of found all this out, and then suddenly it was like, oh no, we're doing the Black Joy Creators Fellowship, and as you say, we're going to have healing justice and urban agriculture and whatever. So
you think she just wanted a nice house?
Who doesn't?
We all want a nice house.
I mean, if I had $90 million just sitting there, nobody's really paying any attention to me. The whole everybody's, saying how wonderful I am. Of course I'm going to dip in. It happens to everyone. Look at Imelda Marcos. Anyone who's got access to a huge pot of money is going to dip into it. So I mean, it's great. The moral is don't give any money to charity.
Well, to be fair, she said that the reason that money was to build local power to intervene in violence inflicted on black communities.
Yes.
That was the aim of it. And that money did sort of go... I mean, it went for a very specific group of black people.
Who bought a villa.
About 4 black people got the benefit of it. But, it did get used for that, having their big own massive mansion.
I think we've been very balanced there, and we've given both sides.
They bought a mansion in a white area.
Is that where it was?
Yeah.
OK, well, look, I think I was just trying to put the other side across, because I think they were just... I think that's fair. But, yeah, clearly there's something dodgy going on there. Anyway, Wednesday's Mirror now. And this sounds like the worst in-flight entertainment I've ever heard of. Josh.
Yeah, so this is, in the Mirror, a flight from leaving Israel.
Yes.
And they were just sort of taxiing off. And then suddenly all these people on their phones, they got like an airdrop thing through... Anyone had an iPhone, it says, do you want to... So basically you just sort of someone sends out a sort of over Wi-Fi or Bluetooth actually I think it is, but you just can like send a message. I can send a file to another phone.
Yes,
that's an iPhone. So airdropping is just a way of communicating from iPhone to iPhone much quicker.
Yes.
Than normal. And you basically say, do you want to get that? And you click yes, and then all these photos of air crash, like of aeroplanes sort of destroyed and burnt out, turned up, and everyone freaked out because seeing it as like was some sort of warning. So they turned the plane back, and everybody got off the plane. But they say that because it has to be a localised thing, it had to have been somebody on the plane.
Right.
So this sounds like, I mean, we should say no one's hurt. You know, this is, but it sounds like either a threat or a prank.
Well, it sounds like, essentially go
prank.
Find whoever the 14-year-old boy on the plane.
That's what I mean.
And then that's probably who it is. It is an interesting time for Jews and aeroplanes because I don't know if you've covered did we cover that?
Hasidic Jews.
Yeah, the Hasidic Jews in Lufthansa, the German Airways, they were kicked off. This is a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Basically, 2 Jews didn't wear their mask properly or something. Yeah, that's my drag name. 2 Jews, and they basically got kicked off the flight, or they were told because they weren't putting the mask on. And there was about 100 other Jewish people on the flight, and the pilot just kicked all the Jewish people off. Now, I should say they weren't a group. They were all going to the same festival thing, but they weren't with each other at all. It kicked off all sort of visible Jews. And then they were basically saying, well, you know, you Jews are the ones who caused it. This woman afterwards, when they were all questioning, and they couldn't get the flight, they were banned for that day. It's a whole big scandal. Now, of course, as these things do, it's only been covered amongst sort of Jews on social media, but it's pretty amazing. And they finally, after 48 hours, came out with an apology, but it was like classic, ridiculous, bad apology that didn't actually say.
Now it's been covered here, so
there we go.
So we are doing that.
It's kind of progress, though, because, I mean, instead of terrorism, people just get pictures of some terrorism, and instead of, the Germans have done worse things to Jews than kick them off a plane in the past.
So you're saying things are getting better? Well, I would say that the last thing I want to see is a photograph. I mean, they don't even play when they show.
By the way, that was a microaggression.
It was very much. I would say that's a macroaggression.
Macroaggression, yeah.
But I mean, you know, when they play those in-flight movies, they even take out scenes whenever there's a burning plane or a plane going down. So the last thing you want to see when you're about to take off are these photographs. It's terrifying to me. But anyway, Wednesday's Telegraph, and this is about Bitcoin. So was I correct in not investing? Because I didn't bother, because I didn't understand it. So I thought I'll leave it alone.
It depends when you're going to do it. So if you're going to do it last year, then yes, you're correct in not doing it. If you're going to do it 10 years ago, then no, you should have invested in Bitcoin. We all should have done. I remember working in tech, and all the tech people were like, oh, you should buy some Bitcoin. I was like, no, it sounds stupid.
My loser brother-in-law and all his like hippie mates, they were like, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. This is like almost like 10, 50, like it was so long ago. And they all did it. They're all totally loaded now. It makes me sick.
But I don't understand how they're loaded, because it's not real money. So they've sold...
Money's not real money.
It's money's real money. I can show you. I've got a $5 in my pocket.
It's just paper with a picture on it. So it means nothing. It just people believe in it, so you can exchange it for stuff. And it's the same with Bitcoin. So it's just that. But it's digital cash, so the government, can't track you. Just like,
But it is interesting because the whole point of Bitcoin was it was meant to be able to resist inflation and sort of be a secure place to put your money. But now that things are going a bit awry with...
well, this article is saying it's not working.
Yeah, it's not working.
It's saying
it's gone down.
It's as unstable as other currencies.
Yeah, whereas gold has gone up a couple of percent.
Right. So we need lots of gold.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the gold. OK, well, times now. This sounds like a hell of a wedding. Josh, this is an amazing story.
Oh, this is fantastic. So this is a village in India, and they were having a wedding, and there was a power cut because they've got like a huge heat wave at the moment. So the companies just literally will turn off the thing. And the priest married these. There were 2 sisters and then these 2 guys from a different village, and basically everyone got swapped around, and they married the wrong couples. Now, this might be a power cut, or it might be that one of the blokes saw one of the sisters and saw the sister and went, wait a minute, I don't like that. She's much fitter. Turn off the light.
And then Bob's
do a
uncle.
switcheroo, yeah.
But apparently not, because apparently both of the brides were wearing the full veil.
Yeah.
So and I don't know if it was arranged. I think it was arranged. And so the husband... Because the article says so, John.
Oh, well...
yeah. So the husbands hadn't seen the bride, it is like a plot of a really weird sitcom.
I think it's actually... The sisters are racist, because effectively what they're saying is, to them, all Indian men look the same.
Are they saying that?
Yeah. They couldn't tell the difference.
Well, in a power cut.
Yeah, but the blokes are also covered up as well. And maybe they hadn't met before, but they went back to the village. Supposedly there are 2 stories that they figured out straight away and the priest remarried them straight away. But there is another version of the story where they say they actually took their brides back to their home village.
Yeah.
They realised then...
And they were like, well, let's just go with it.
Well, they were trying to do that.
Some villagers said,
they were saying, just do it.
Just let it
and the women were like, nah, mate, I don't like him.
This is almost, it's like that, All's Well That Ends Well, the Shakespeare play, where the character Helena tricks the man into sleeping with her in the dark. Yeah. He thinks he's having sex with another woman, and it's like that. It's Shakespearean.
It's absolutely Esau and Jacob.
That was also in the Motley Crue biography. So,
is that right?
Yeah. It's not just Shakespeare.
No, not just Shakespeare. We're very broad here at Headliners, culturally speaking. Now, if we as a species are to make contact with an alien civilization, I'm not sure this is the best way to introduce ourselves. Leo, what's this about?
So this is a message that's being beamed out via some sort of radio transmitter towards the stars. So if any aliens receive this message, apparently it can be decoded by anyone that's got a radio or got sufficiently. It's a simple sort of simple message, and it shows a sort of very pixelated.
There it is. We can see it now. Now it's a picture of Peter Andre.
It's got DNA and Rebecca Vardy.
Yeah.
It's got some. Those are the symbols of the new currency that's going to be in the new European Union. It's got DNA strands, and that curve there on the right hand side shows where Earth is in relation to the Sun, and it gives a map.
Yes,
it gives a map to the solar system.
OK, so no, this is a big question. Why do we keep sending these signals out to aliens? We don't know whether they're benevolent or not. They might just want to crush us.
Well, we can send them to Rwanda if they come here and...
Just move them on.
Yeah.
That could work.
Yeah, so this is what they quoted astronomer Carl Sagan said, even if the aliens are short, dour and sexually obsessed, if they're here, I want to know about them as we get enslaved and they use up all our resources or whatever.
Yeah, look, I'm not having it. I've seen Terminator. I know where this ends. Just leave the aliens alone. If they're out there...
But it could be that they got that message and have sent back a message to us, and now, through the cosmos, is coming some alien porn that we're going to be getting soon.
They think that's what it is. But also, we're transmitting an image that suggests that sex is binary and not a spectrum. So this is a transphobic message.
This is 1974. There's no they, them there. It's disgusting.
It's not good enough. Anyway, the Daily Star really ramping up their Pulitzer Prize efforts with this one. Humanzees.
Oh, yeah.
What is a humanzee?
So apparently recently there's a hybrid monkey that's got DNA from 2 different species of monkey found. So it shook up the world of science. But then, since then, it's been revealed that Kremlin chiefs in Russia in the 90s, they wanted an unbeatable army of man-apes with immense strength. They couldn't buy Millwall Football Club. So instead they tried to develop one in a laboratory. So they wanted a species with immense strength, a man-ape, but with an underdeveloped brain that was resilient to... And there
he is!
Microaggression.
This is what you're on tonight.
I like it in London, I'm some sort of manny. If I go to Scotland, I'm just some perfume milk toast.
Yeah. You're quite posh up there, are you?
Yeah, very posh. I
find that very hard to believe.
Yeah, use cutlery and everything. So.
He knows where the olives are.
So, I mean, this is a scary idea, the idea that they're creating these sort of man-ape...
Absolutely. China was at it in the 80s, Russia in the 20s, America. They all want some of this human chimpanzee action.
Oh, I don't know. I think we should stop playing God. Don't we know where it leads?
Yeah, to cool monkey soldiers.
Monkey soldiers, can't be dealing with it. Anyway, we're going to finish on a literal dream app of mine. Cheezam. Leo?
Oh, yeah. So this is... We know what Shazam is. That's an app. If you hear a song, you're like, oh, I like that song. You can press the button on Shazam and it'll tell you what song it is. So now there's an app called Cheezam. So if you see some cheese you like, you can hold your phone against the cheese. No, you basically take a photo of the cheese. The algorithm scans it, compares it to other pictures of cheese, and then it'll find out what sort of cheese it is. Although, I mean, it's always labelled.
It's good, but it is in France.
Always labelled. You're never walking past a deli counter and you're like, what is it? It's labelled, so you know what you're buying.
So this is an unnecessary app.
And the thing is, you can only get it in France at the moment. It's developed in France, but I believe there's a UK app coming out called Sparkling Cheezam.
I don't know, though. I think in some of the posh markets, when you go into the markets, the outdoor markets and stuff, sometimes they don't label the cheese. I'd like to know what it is I'm eating. I think this is quite a good...
And they could be trying to rip you off, trying to sell you a fancy Gouda when it's just Edam.
Exactly. So you need to check it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, these cheese frauds are going to just keep on winning. Anyway, that is all we have time for. Thank you very much to my guests, Leo Kearse and Josh Howie. I would like to remind people that we have a new comedy panel show here at GB News. That's called Ministry of Offence, and that is on every Saturday night at 8 p.m. So please do check that out. And the older episodes are already up there on YouTube. And please check out my show on Sunday, which is called Free Speech Nation. Tomorrow, we've got Simon Evans in the hot seat here on Headliners. And of course, the show is repeated every morning at 5 a.m. as well. We'll see you tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Farewell for now.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious.